Good morning. Welcome to the King's Report News Hour. The King's Report News Hour, yes, for the ninth day of the 10th month now, in the 16th year of Changi. Tim Miller sitting in for the second king of Changi. And let's go right to our trip around the kingdom right now in Chongpyeong, Tennessee. A little bit chilly this morning. 21 degrees and clear is what I have here. Sunny and chilly today, high of 42. Tonight, partly cloudy and cold, 23 degrees for a low. Father's hometown, Cheongju in North Pyongan province in Korea, North Korea today. But who knows about the future? 33 degrees and cloudy, and a low of 30 degrees tonight. No low clouds with a shower and spot after temperatures rise above freezing late. And then tomorrow, a touch of rain in the morning. Otherwise, after a cloudy start, sunshine returns. 42 for a high. And in the Cheonryugung Palace in northeast Pennsylvania, 32 degrees and clear right now, getting up to 40 degrees today, mostly cloudy and breezy with a few flurries. Bundle up for holiday shopping. Here we go. Here we go. You guys got to spend, 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 all right? Save the economy. Don't you dare even think about saving. Anyway, tonight mainly clear and breezy, low of 26. Yes. All that music, all that, that brainwashing music. Dun, 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 spend, 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 spend. It is beginning now. All right. In Limestone County, Texas, at the Liberty Rock RV Park and Campground, 37 degrees, mostly clear. Breezy this morning, otherwise intervals of clouds and sun, high of 63. Tonight, cloudy and windy with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm, low of 52. Suncheon Palace in Korea, 41 degrees and clear, and remaining clear and colder tonight, down to 26 degrees. Tomorrow, not as cool, with plenty of sunshine, high of 59. Well, that's nice. And at the Gunma Palaces in Japan, currently 47 and clear. Partly cloudy through the night, 40 degrees for a low. Tomorrow, high 59 degrees with sunny skies. Guangdong province in China, clear and 69. Remaining clear through the night, a low of 54. Tomorrow, hazy sunshine, high of 80 degrees there. All right, let's go to Father's Word. And we're in chapter 3, which is titled The Purpose of Life. Purpose of Insang, of course, is a human life, not just life in general, but human life. And Father's here. Father here speaking August 9th, 1970. 도의 세계에서. So in Do is a Do means path or way, and of course in um, Chinese, Japanese, and certainly Korean, it's used in the spiritual sense as well. To the way, so their spiritual path. So 도의 세계에서. So in the world of the, shall we say, well, I think we could just say spirituality here. Spirituality. 인격 완성이라는 표준이 어디에서 나올 것이나 올 것이냐. So where is the standard of completion of character? Ah, yes. How do you know you've completed your character? 사랑에서 나오는 것입니다. It comes from love. Of course, 하나님의 무한하고 절대적인 사랑을 중심 삼고 인격 완성이 되는 것입니다. It is centered on God's unlimited and absolute love that the completion of character is accomplished. Mm-hmm. That sounds like a quote that should go fit into somebody's divine principle lecture. Okay, that's page 131 in the Korean World Scripture 2. The completion of our character, the standard of completion, it comes from God's unlimited 무한하고 unlimited. 무한 is limited. 무한 no limit. 무한하고 절대적인 unlimited and absolute love of God is where standard of completion of character comes from. All right, so we all have a ways to go. Okay. Now, President Trump let us know last night that among the or between the two National Guardsmen who were shot, um, the young woman, 20 years old, Sarah Beckstrom, passed away, passed into the spirit world as a result of her wounds. And the second National Guard member is also fighting for his life, the president said. Um, Sometimes, a death like this can really change the atmosphere, and it happens both ways. One of the really pivotal events in the sort of the democratization, shall we call it, of South Korea. Um, I don't know if democratization is the right word because became very, very leftist. But anyway, one thing that really changed the course of South Korea was the death of one university student in 1987. And revolutions are sometimes sparked by things like this. One person's death can spark a real change in atmosphere one way or the other. Sort of the public, shall we say, or the majority of people rally behind the cause that that person represented, and uh, that the people who lead that cause are able to push forward with their agenda. And this may be the case here. Certainly, President Trump is now pushing forward very strongly uh, with what he believes is the best course for America, his America First agenda. And I expect that he will be um, pointing to Sarah Beckstrom's death, and I guess I don't want to say using her, but pointing to her or elevating her as a martyr for the sake of the salvation of America. And I think that would be a good thing for him to do. Um, the left has its martyrs, but Sarah may be a very effective martyr now for saving America. We'll have to see how this works. How this works in the next days and weeks. President Trump announced Thursday night that Sarah Beckstrom, a National Guard member who was shot in Washington on Wednesday and was in critical condition, has died. I heard that Sarah Beckstrom of West Virginia, one of the guardsmen that we're talking about, highly respected, young, magnificent person, started service in June 2023, outstanding in every way. She just passed away, Trump said during a call with service members on Thanksgiving. She's no longer with us. She's looking down at us right now. Her parents are with her. It just happened. She was savagely attacked. She is dead. I wish she would steer away from this sort of Christian mythology, looking down on us. That's not the way it happens. But anyway, I guess I won't quibble with it too much. The president called Beckstrom an incredible person because, this kind of mythology just makes it more difficult uh, to spread the truth of God's how God created the world. Uh, anyway, so the president called Beckstrom an incredible person, U.S. Army Specialist Beckstrom 20. So she entered the Guard in 2023, 2 years ago. So that means she entered the Guard right out of high school, I suppose, anyway, when she was 18 years old. Began Guard service on June 26, 2023. So yeah, it looks like she joined the Guard right after graduation and was assigned to the 863rd Military Police Company, 111th Engineer Brigade, West Virginia Army National Guard, according to a news release. At a press conference this morning, Janine Pirro, U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, identified the two National Guard soldiers who were shot as Beckstrom and Andrew Wolf. Both Beckstrom and Wolf had been deployed in Washington since August when the troop deployment in the city began. The two were shot and critically wounded on November 26th near the White House. As I pointed out yesterday, I read that this happened at H and I Streets, which I calculate to be about 3 blocks from the White House. The other victim, Air Force Staff Sergeant Wolf, 24, remains in critical condition. He's in very bad shape, Trump said. He's fighting for his life, and hopefully we will get better news with respect for him. The suspected shooter has been identified as 29-year-old, and I don't want to even want to say his name, an Afghan national. During the press conference, FBI Director Kash Patel said the shooting is being investigated as an act of terrorism. Well, and I think that's probably justified because apparently this guy was living in Washington State, and he traveled across the country for the purpose of committing this act or some similar act of a murder. And this guy drove across the country from his home in Washington State with the intended target of coming to our nation's capital, Bureau said. He resided in Bellingham, Washington, with his wife and we believe 5 children. We're working very closely with our federal partners, especially DHS and the FBI, to review his immigration history and the vetting process itself, she said. A little bit complicated because he was with the CIA in Afghanistan, and uh, apparently he was part of a uh, group of Afghans who were sort of a uh, secret group of soldiers. Uh, and anyway, so I think it was based on that, his activity in that he came to the United States. So even if he had been vetted back then, it would seem that he would have been allowed in because he was working with the U.S. He was working with the U.S. and he was helping to kill Taliban. So I don't see how he would have been refused entry to the United States, even if he'd been fully vetted, which apparently he was not. But anyway, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services announced on November 27th that all permanent resident cards or green cards issued to individuals from countries of concern, including Afghanistan, will be reviewed. So apparently there are 19 of these countries of concern. Um, at the direction of POTUS, I have directed a full-scale, rigorous re-examination of every green card for every alien from every country of concern, Joseph Edlow, director of USCIS, said on X. And here's that list of countries, but probably no one watching this show or listening to this show needs to be concerned. These are countries like Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, Republic of the Congo. Uh, that's the other Congo, not the former Zaire, not the Democratic Republic of Congo, but the what is it? The Brazzaville? Oh no, no, what is it? Anyway, the other Congo, the small one. Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Yemen, Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela. In another announcement on November 26th, the USCIS ended the processing of all immigration requests from Afghan nationals. So no one's coming in from Afghanistan now. So this kind of crackdown is starting now, and this is the kind of thing that you expect when this sort of a tragedy occurs. Um, and in addition, President Trump says he's stopping immigration from what he calls third world countries. And he said he would remove people incapable of loving the United States. Well, really? Are you going to remove, let's see, how many members of Congress? All right, so he may be going a little bit overboard here. And I don't know what he means by third world countries. Is he referring to the 19 countries, or is this a wider net that he's casting? Permanently pause migration from all third world countries and remove foreign nationals who are incapable of loving the United States, saying the steps were necessary to allow for the U.S. system's full recovery. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Um, I guess the concern is that this kind of thing even though it's necessary temporarily, it could well become much more than temporary. In a Truth Social post, Trump stated that while the United States has made progress in technology, the country's immigration policy has eroded those gains and affected the living conditions for citizens. To address this, Trump pledged that his administration would work to pause immigration from third world countries, suspend all federal benefits and subsidies to non citizens. Hmm, that would include green card holders. So that would be a problem. I don't think the courts, I don't think even the Supreme Court will go along with suspending federal benefits to green card holders. Denaturalize immigrants who undermine domestic tranquility and deport any foreigners deemed to be a public charge, security risk, or non compatible with Western civilization. Although, when I don't know if it's still true, but in the past, when someone, for example, when my wife was applying for a green card or we were applying for her immigrant visa, I had to have a job in the United States. I had to show that I could support her for at least, I don't know, what was it, 3 years or 5 years, something like that. And I had to promise that she would not become a public, well, she would not be dependent on the government uh, for at least 3 years or 5 years or some period like that. And I don't think that's actually being enforced. So President Trump may get by with enforcing that existing rule if it still exists. But taking federal benefits away from all green card holders, that might be a little bit problematic, I think, even for the Supreme Court. Trump also vowed to remove anyone whom the government determines not a net asset to the United States or is incapable of loving the country. Yeah, okay, all right. So, all right, I think he's being a bit emotional, but we'll see how this works out. These goals will be pursued with the aim of achieving a major reduction in illegal and disruptive populations, including those admitted through an unauthorized and illegal auto pen approval process, he said. Only reserve migration can fully cure this situation, or reverse, I'm sorry. Only reverse migration, letters are so big I couldn't even read them. Only reverse migration can fully cure this situation. Okay. So he wants to reduce the population of the United States. Trump made the post in the wake of the November 26th shooting. So forth, a suspect identified Afghan national, this guy, and entered the United States in September 2021 under Operation Allies Welcome, the Biden era's resettlement program launched after the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, and so forth. This is all past. Okay. This is all Protestant. And of course, the left is trying to blame this whole thing on President Trump. Um, one guy said that he's putting too much emphasis on immigration and not enough on crime, but that's silly because he's put National Guard in Washington D.C. specifically for the purpose. And the reason that these two National Guardsmen were there at H&I was I guess it was to guard a metro station. I think the West was Farragut West Metro Station. I think it was that they were guarding. And Farragut West Metro Station is, by the way, used by a lot of White House employees and executive department employees. I think I used it quite a bit when I had an office there on H Street near the White House. So it's good that there were National Guardsmen there, and their purpose was to be there and to guard against this kind of person. But apparently, this guy was a professional. He's a professional soldier. He was trained. I don't know if he was trained by the CIA, but anyway, he was trained by someone there in Afghanistan. Perhaps he was trained by the Soviets. I don't know before that. But anyway, he's trained as a soldier. And these National Guardsmen, I think, probably, I don't know, the training of National Guard, is it up to the level of the full time military? I don't know. Maybe not. Anyway, they were ambushed, I would say, and killed in this really terrible, terrible manner. So we'll see what happens and how President Trump is speaking a little bit emotionally right now. and but we'll see how this all shakes out. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Um, um, okay. I guess we'll do this one. Oh no, let's look at some other headlines on Epic Times before I go to this other article. It's kind of a silly article. I'm not really in the mood of doing silly articles right now. Uh, see, cartels are scrambling as fentanyl precursor supply from China dries up, according to the FBI director. And this interview will be aired tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. November 29th is tomorrow, yes, Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Uh, where I guess this will be on, okay, this will be on the Epic Times TV. What do they call it? Anyway, it's a FBI Director Kash Patel has said that with Beijing shuttering off exports of fentanyl precursor chemicals, cartels in Mexico, Venezuela, and Colombia are scrambling to find alternatives, and there aren't any. We know where they are, we know who they are, we know how they do it. And when we surveil and monitor and investigate these folks, we see that they are complaining about not having the necessary ingredients and mechanics to make fentanyl, Patel said in an exclusive interview airing on Epic TV, okay, Epic TV at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on November 29th. So if you're interested, you can figure out how to watch Epic TV. This is an immediate impact that they haven't complained about in years. In early November, Patel traveled to China for a meeting on the logistics of how Beijing would make good on its agreement to curb fentanyl precursor exports after the US China bilateral meeting in South Korea. It resulted in export bans on 13 fentanyl precursors and 7 additional chemicals. Domestically, the FBI under the Trump administration is cracking down on violent crime in what Patel describes as a sea change in approach by empowering local offices and increasing staffing nationwide. The result is 30,000 arrests this year, including 25,000 violent offenders, or twice as many year to date, and a sharp drop in the murder rate, according to the FBI director. Some of these priority missions, fentanyl, human trafficking, and financial crimes, require international cooperation. Patel said the fentanyl issue is a global one, referencing his recent Asia trip that had several stops beyond China. It doesn't just rest with China. We've worked brilliantly with our partners in India to stop the transshipments there. We went to Japan on this trip for the same reason. Okay, how's Japan involved in this? Japan, of course, is very, very strict about hallucinogenic drugs. It's certainly not being produced there. Transshipments, really? Through Japan? I don't think there's a whole lot of it. The Japan trip led to law enforcement cooperation and agreements allowing extradition to the United States. I see people that run away there for the first time in 5 years, Patel added. Uh, I guess the extradition agreement lapsed or something. Stopping the flow of precursors had immediate results, according to Patel. The pipeline being shut off is forcing drug traffickers to scramble, which we're seeing for alternatives, Patel said. And here's the good news, they know and we know there aren't any. That's why we came up with this list. Near the end of the first Trump administration, the president secured an agreement from Beijing to restrict the export of fentanyl to the United States. Subsequently, fentanyl trafficking exploded because Chinese chemical companies began selling precursors and pill presses to traffickers in Mexico. This is step 2 in the second administration, shutting off the precursors because we literally cut the snake off at the head, Patel said. Patel said his meeting with his counterpart in Chinese Ministry of Public Security was a bit of a surreal experience. I'll bet it was. By the way, do you want to live as long as you're here? What about kidney? We got a special on hearts these days. He prefaced the meeting by saying he knew the Chinese side would not 100% agree on issues, but their mission, as given by their respective heads of state, was shutting down the fentanyl precursors that the drug trafficking organizations are using down in Mexico to kill Americans. And we reached that agreement immediately. Patil had engaged with Chinese law enforcement on fentanyl for 6 months before making the trip through phone calls and video calls. This had also resulted in a few fentanyl precursors being restricted for export on September 1 before Beijing issued wider restrictions on November 10th. We were successfully able to shut off all 13 precursors that make fentanyl and regulate fully 7 additional chemicals that alter fentanyl to make it a lethal addictive drug, Patel said. Patel noted that Beijing's cooperation is needed to a reduced, I'm sorry, Patel noted that Beijing's cooperation is tied to a reduced fentanyl tariff, 10% of 20%, and the ongoing communications are in place to ensure the regime keeps its word this time. They're going to have to come to the table and continuously show results with us, Patel said. If I go back, I'll go back. If I got to go back, I'll go back. He added that the administration's approach to the fentanyl crisis has been a whole of government effort and that he is the point of contact with Beijing on adhering to this agreement. Okay. All right. So good work, I guess, at FBI. We'll see, but I keep emphasizing got to work on the demand side, not just the supply side. All right. Because these guys, he says that so right now they're scrambling and there aren't any, but somehow someone's going to come up with alternatives somewhere. I'm sure the Chinese are not the only ones who have the technology to or the resources to create these precursor chemicals. So maybe it'll happen in Russia, maybe it'll happen in Venezuela. I don't know, someplace, but it's going to happen someplace. So we need to develop strategies for the demand side. In other words, the people who are seeking out fentanyl in abusing fentanyl. Pain medication or pain management is a tremendously important area of medicine, especially as the population grows older. I know from personal experience, right? I know from personal experience that pain can be a very difficult experience. It can be very difficult. And, you know, I remember I was on the phone with my doctor one time and I had, I guess it was my back or something. And I just said, I'll do whatever you say. Just tell me what to do, whatever you say. So I don't think I would do very well in a hostage situation. I would give up. I would give up the secrets. Although I don't have any. All right, just don't come looking for me. But pain management is very important, and uh, unfortunately, we have not really figured out a way to deal with that in a way that is not addictive. Right. So recently there was that deal that the government came to with the Sackler family in OxyContin, and that also unfortunately gets abused a lot. And somehow I don't know how, but someone needs to come up with a way of managing pain that is effective and is also non-addictive. And I don't think we really have a good solution for that right now. Okay. All right, so let's continue with that. So if anyone's looking for a Nobel Prize, that might be a good area to study. Okay, FBI is following the money to map out the entire Antifa network, according to Patel. Apparently, this is also part of the interview that's being aired tomorrow. Okay. Military puts heat on Venezuela's Maduro, what to know. But as I said, they have the Gerald R. Ford, the most advanced aircraft carrier in the Caribbean now, near Venezuela, and it cannot stay there forever. It was taken from the Mediterranean, and of course, in the Mediterranean, it was uh, doing missions. You got to assume connected with Israel and the Middle East, and also potentially connected to perhaps Ukraine, um, all sorts of missions connected there, and perhaps also North Africa. So it was performing, I'm sure, a very important role in the Mediterranean. And President Trump has drawn it away from there and put it off the coast of Venezuela now. And he either uses it to attack Venezuela or he withdraws it. And if he withdraws, and then it'll show Maduro that all those threats were just bluffs and that he can continue on as usual. So we'll see. President Trump now is saying that he's going to begin attacking the drug traffickers on the land very soon. So that sounds like the Gerald R. Ford is going to be used for that purpose. We'll see. Okay, Philadelphia hosts the nation's longest running Thanksgiving Day parade. Okay. And the leftists are putting out this, that I think, what is it they say that, yeah, far left Nation magazine trashes Thanksgiving. Pilgrims were doomsday cultists, and time to reckon America's radical origins. Well, radical origins, yes. Thomas Jefferson was a radical for certain, but uh, Pilgrim's doomsday cultists, well, I suppose maybe there is something to that. But anyway, they created a fantastic nation. So, of course, has a lot of warts and unfortunately did not deal with the issue of slavery and when they should have. But uh, still, all in all, created a nation that has guided the world into relative peace. Relative peace, can I say that? At least prosperity. Well, maybe I better not say relative peace. But anyway, well, Cold War, we didn't destroy humanity. I suppose you could say that. Okay, let's take credit for that. All right, let's see here. While we're on the bright part, let's look at what's going on. Let's see here. And people, of course, are blaming each other for the National Guard shooting, but the important thing now is how is this going to be used to change the atmosphere in America? And how is it going to be used to uh, promote patriotism and make it difficult for leftists to operate, those who are trying to undermine America to operate? Okay, Cook County going socialist makes guaranteed basic income program permanent. Hmm, interesting. Elon Musk had an interesting thing to say. He did not, this is not in a post that he put out, but apparently something that he said in a speech where he said that in the future, money will become irrelevant. And I don't understand that. I don't think he really thought that through because you always need money in order to have transactions, and it can be seashells, and it can be something else. But I think maybe he means the amount of money that a certain person has, an individual has, that may become irrelevant. That perhaps that's possible. Anyway, Cook County, that's Chicago, makes guaranteed basic income program permanent. Of course, they're going to print their own money, I suppose. I don't know. So they launched it as a pilot program in 2022 with the help of federal COVID-19 relief funds. So I guess they have a way of getting other people's money. I don't know. The Cook County Board of Commissioners unanimously approved $7.5 million to make the program permanent last week. Fox reported Cook County is the second largest county in the U.S. and includes the city of Chicago. Guaranteed basic income programs have become a trend across the U.S. in recent years, with more than 100 pilots launched since 2018. Mayors for Guaranteed Income grew into a coalition of 150 mayors, pushing pilot programs offering low income participants up to $1,000 a month with no strings attached, according to the report. The group has pushed pilot programs that have been adopted by municipalities across the country. The Cook County program at one point was the largest publicly funded program in the U.S., receiving $42 million from the American Rescue Plan Act. The Cook County Promise Guaranteed Income Pilot gave monthly payments of $500 to 3,250 households for 2 years with no strings attached, according to the report. The commissioners told the outlet they decided to make the program permanent because of findings from a survey of the county's program showing three-quarters of participants reported feeling more financially secure. The survey additionally found that 94% of participants used the money for financial emergencies, and the majority said the program improved their mental health and lowered stress. Survey participants reported using the funds mainly for essential needs like food, rent, utilities, and transportation, per the report. Ah, you know where this is going, right? CBDC, central bank digital currency. This is exactly the kind of thing that CBDC is designed to do because CBDC is programmable. You can program it so that you can put money into certain people's accounts and not others. You can program it so that it can be spent on some things, but not others. And you can program it so that it, like a supermarket coupon, has an expiration date. And the what was it? I think it was, yeah, it was the World no, the IMF, either IMF or World Bank staffer making a report was basically gushing at this possibility. Yeah, we're gonna be able to program this thing. And he was really gung ho. I think it's been a while since we had that report, but yeah, I don't know if you remember that. But these people, this is their purpose. All right, we're going to be able to program this thing. We'll be able to do all the social engineering that we need. We'll even be able to take money away from some people if they have too much money. This is where this is going. Right? This is that's the next step. The guaranteed basic income program, making it permanent. Yes. So how long before we read that Chicago is instituting a CBDC, or that, or even though President Trump has said that there will not be a CBDC in America, but I'm sorry, President Trump, you're not going to have a third term, and you're not going to be able to be president forever. And who knows? I guarantee you, the next Democrat who comes into the White House, CBDC, that's CBDC, absolutely, central bank digital currency. Why? Because Democrats like control, and CBDC is all about control, all about control. It is financial tyranny. And this is where this is going. Obviously, 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 this is where this is going. All right. So, what do you do? How do you prepare for that? Well, make sure you have assets outside of the financial system. I don't know if you follow the news around Bitcoin very much, but recently there's this company um, called Strike. Yeah, Strike, and it's a I guess you call it a Bitcoin exchange, and they do a lot of stuff with Bitcoin. You can buy Bitcoin on there, and you can also get loans using your Bitcoin, and all sorts of stuff like that. Anyway, the president of the CEO of Strike is a young guy. I think he's still in his 20s, maybe 30. I don't know. He looks like he's like 18, but he's not 18. Um, but he's a young guy, and he was on an interview recently, and he said some bad things about Jamie Dimon, the CEO of the largest bank in the U.S., um, J.P. Morgan Chase. And guess what happened? Chase froze his accounts, not his personal accounts, and I think also his business accounts. Yeah, and they won't tell him why. He says that he asks them, why'd you do this? And they say, we're not allowed to tell you. This is the world we're living in. Okay. So always say nice things about Jamie Dimon, please. It's ridiculous. We're living in bizarro world. I'm sorry, that's a Seinfeld. We're living in bizarro world here. It's banks. I don't know. Was this also the case, 100 years ago, where banks would just say, "Well, we're going to freeze your account"? Well, well, it's been almost 4 years now since PayPal suspended my account. They didn't freeze it, they didn't close it, but they made it so that I could not receive funds, and they made it so that I could not send funds. And what else do you do with PayPal? I tried to close it actually, and I can't even do that. So that's the world we're living in. Yeah, but I've decided I didn't fight it. I can live without PayPal. And yeah, in 4 years, I've not really suffered because of my inability to access PayPal. Anyway, so this is what banks do. And it's amazing. It's amazing that this is happening. Of course, Eric Trump has been on some sort of program recently talking about how his family, the Trump family, was debanked, and about how this sparked his interest in Bitcoin and in cryptocurrencies. And so the banking industry is really shooting itself in the foot. Um, and, this is what happens with economic sanctions on the national level, and also on the sort of the uh, domestic level as well. If you cut someone off, they're going to find other ways to get around that. And I found ways to get around PayPal. It wasn't very difficult. There are plenty of ways to do that. And Eric Trump and the Trump family have found ways to get around their having been debanked. And now, of course, he says, now all those people who debanked them in the past are now coming and uh, well, they're being very nice, to say the least. He didn't say it that way. He said that they were sucking their or licking their something or other. Anyway, but this is the world that we increasingly seem to be going into. That there are people who are trying to increase control, and we keep trying to have that. We keep having to find ways to get around that control. And fortunately, because technology is advancing, we can do that. We can do that. So they're using technology to control people. We're using technology to fight that control, and we'll see which side wins in the long run. Anyway, Cook County, Chicago, making guaranteed basic income program permanent until, of course, they can um, replace it with a CBDC. All right. Uh, let's see. I don't think I'm sharing anymore. Let me share again. Oh, here we go. Now I can go to this one. Americans, shame on you. Researchers, who gets paid to do this stuff? Who gets paid to do this kind of research? Americans are holding on to old tech devices, and it's hurting the economy. Shame on you for. I'll bet you're actually saving money, right? You're probably putting money away for your retirement. Shame on you. Don't you know that the government is going to take care of you, so you have nothing to worry about? You can just spend, 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 spend. Oh my goodness! Please don't tell me that you're saving money for retirement, or something else, right? For next year's Christmas or anything. You got to get rid of all that money. Just you got to spend it. I mean, isn't that what Cain said? Yes, he is our God. He's our prophet. Americans are holding on to their smartphones and other devices longer than ever. But researchers claim this trend comes with a hidden cost to the economy. Hidden cost to the economy. CNBC reports that in recent years, Americans have been clinging to their aging smartphones. When the screen cracks, I bet you actually go and get the screen fixed. You don't buy a new one. I bet you actually get the screen fixed. Shame on you. Or you actually carry it around with the cracked screen. Oh my goodness. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Computers, yes, aging smartphones, computers, and other electronic devices for extended periods. Oh, what is the world coming to? While this may seem like a financially very prudent decision on the individual level, may, oh, I don't know, may, yes, it might possibly. These people. Experts warn. It's all the experts. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I repent. It's the experts now. Uh, warn. Oh my goodness, warn. Yes, they're trying to control me with fear that the collective impact of this trend could be detrimental to the economy as a whole. Preach, brother, preach. According to a recent survey of by reviews.org, the average American now holds on to their smartphone for 29 months. 2 years, a significant increase from the 22-month average in 2016. This trend is not limited to individual consumers. Businesses are also holding on to outdated technology for even longer periods to delay the expense of device rollouts. Experts claim that lost productivity, oh my goodness, and inefficiency are the unintended consequences of people and businesses clinging to aging technology. Uh, there used to be, they don't use this term anymore, but there used to be this term called planned obsolescence. Remember that? And it used to be this was applied mainly to the automobile industry, where car companies would make it so that cars would sort of fall apart, in at a certain period, like maybe 2 or 3 years or something, so that people would be forced to buy new cars, and that's why they would, car companies would come up with new models every year, right? And some people, I guess, always want the newest one, the newest one, the newest one, and so consumers have been sort of brainwashed into thinking that they need to buy the newest car every year, or also the iPhone. What are the iPhone guys on now? What is it? 17 and a half, or I don't know what it is, but anyway, I don't do iPhone. Um, yeah, but so yeah, this is a terrible thing. Yes, experts claim that they used the word expert for the second time. Claim that lost productivity and inefficiency are unintended consequences of people and businesses clinging. Oh no, 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 no! What did Hillary say? Clinging to their Bibles and their guns. Is that what she said? Clinging, yes. Don't cling. Come on, you guys. Cassandra Cummings. With a name like that, I can see. CEO of New Jersey-based electronics design company Thomas Instrumentation explains that older devices were engineered when internet speeds were much slower, and they often struggle to keep up with the faster speeds available today. This can lead to networks throttling back their speeds to accommodate the slowest devices, resulting in entire sections of networks running slower than they would if all devices were up to the newer standards. Oh my, that's terrible. Despite the challenges, some device manufacturers have found ways to entice consumers to upgrade. Oh, it's iPhone 17. Okay. Apple, for example, had one of the most successful new launches with the iPhone 17, thanks in part to the allure of AI features. And this guy, Dean of Business School, all right, well, he's a dean. He must be an expert. At Newman University, warns that rising prices and sustainability concerns are among the reasons America's gadgets are aging out. But the focus should be on the resulting productivity. The focus should be not on your family budget, all right? That's not where the focus should be. No, 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 not no, no, no. Don't be unpatriotic. Come on, you guys. Yeah. The focus should be on the resulting productivity slowdown. The Chinese are going to pass us, increasing repair and maintenance expenses, and limited access to software updates and efficiency gains. Small businesses, in particular, the ones with very little narrow margins, who barely make enough money to sustain themselves, they lose valuable hours each year due to lagging systems, creating what economists call a productivity drag. On a national scale, this translates to billions of dollars. Oh, this is so ridiculous. I can't stand it. I can't stand it anymore. Is there more to this? Are they going to keep on going? Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Okay, but I can't stand it anymore. uh, shall I tell you a story? No, yeah, no. No, I don't know if I will. Yeah, I'll withhold that. I'll withhold that temptation. I was going to tell you a story about how my children once chastised me for having a flip phone and got together and bought me a smartphone. That was a long time ago. Anyway, let's not go there. Okay. All right. So, can America be saved from the well? But I think we do need to point out that in OSTP, um, when in OSTP, the ideal kingdom in OSTP is let me get the order right: coexistence, co-prosperity, and universally shared values. Right. That is Father's sort of definition of Chonibuk, or the ideal kingdom. And the idea is that there will be reasonable consumption, and also production that meets the need of that consumption. And so we won't have what we have today, this pressure to spend, 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 which, and the reason that by the way, the reason that this story is coming out today on Black Friday, okay, is that it is part of the brainwashing effort to get everybody to go out and just spend like there's no tomorrow, like this is the last Christmas or something. And this is what will stop in Chengdu. So how do we do that? How does that happen? Well, it happens when the value of money increases as time passes instead of decreasing as time passes, right? Which is what we have now, right? We know that the purchasing power of our cash decreases as time goes on, and banks will give you what the generous ones will give you 3, 4, 5%, maybe even 5%, which is not even well, I guess that's barely the official inflation figure, but we know that the actual inflation figure is significantly higher than that. So the longer we keep our money in the bank, the less purchasing power it has, and so people are incentivized to spend money as fast as they can. And this is you know I feel it much more in the United States than I do in either Japan or Korea. And of course, Japan and Korea are on the same system. They're on the inflation system. They're also, in fact, their currencies are losing purchasing power even faster than the U.S. dollar. but in America, it really is this patriotic aspect is attached to it, even that you've got to spend because it's good for the country, it's good for the economy. Don't hold on to iPhone 16. What are you doing with an iPhone 16? Shame on you. There's a 17 out. Didn't you know that? This kind of thing. I don't feel that nearly as much in Korea. So how do you do it? Well, you have to create a system where the value of money increases as time goes on. So then when that happens, then people are incentivized to save rather than to spend. And of course they spend what they need. You need a roof over your head, you need food, you need clothing, uh, kids are going to need school supplies, you're going to have to take kids to the doctors. So there are always going to be expenses. But you're not going to need a new car every year. Come on, I mean, right? I mean, uh, and even the concept of new car, I, I guess I did once buy a new car, um, which turned out to be a lemon. Served me right. I once bought a new car, and it was really a terrible car. But I always buy, and I think many people do this, always buy used because we know that the value of a car drops by a huge percentage the moment that you drive it off the lot. Anyway, so how do you do that? How do you have a system, a currency or money that increases in value as time goes on? Well, you have to have a deflationary economy. Deflationary. In other words, prices are always going down. So how does that happen? Well, as I mentioned yesterday, was it yesterday? Yes, it was yesterday I mentioned. that in a free market, which we do not have now, all right, we do not have a free market now. Our market is relatively free in comparison to many other places, but it is not. It is not a free market. In a free market, in a free market, prices go down. Why? Because, as I explained yesterday, companies are competing against each other always to give consumers a better deal. In other words, more value for less money, more value for less money. And if when that happens, then prices are always going to be going down, quality is going to be going up. And sometimes I point to the fact that computers, compared to say, you know, 50 years ago, only universities could actually afford to buy a computer or some sort of research institute. Individuals could not afford to buy a computer 50 or so years ago. When I was in college, there was one computer on campus, and it filled the entire basement of the administration building. And then there were a few. What do you call it? There were sort of branches connected to, but they were not computers, but we had a little screen and a little keyboard. I think the keyboard. No, we didn't have a keyboard. What did we have? It wasn't a keyboard because we did not yet have keyboards then. What did we have then? I can't remember. But anyway, this was before keyboards. In fact, they used to tell me, yeah, soon, one day, it'll look like a typewriter with a screen. This is what they were saying back then. Um, but so the price and that at that time, one computer would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and of course now they cost hundreds of dollars, or even less. Maybe for a couple of $100 that you can get a decent computer, like a Chrome or something. So prices like that, but they should have come down even more. They should have come down even more if they had been in a real free market. So that's what it's going to be like in Tony. So none of this nonsense of it's Christmas time, spend, 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 right? None of this pressure to get rid of all your money. Right? So anyway, um, I think people should put their money into assets that are going to, first of all, be outside the financial system, and second of all, um, grow in value so that they cover the loss of purchasing power that the currency is suffering. Okay. Anyway, so just a word to the wise on this sort of a Christmas time. On the one hand, I really, for a long time, I've reacted against the commercialization of Jesus's birthday, even though we know it's not his birthday. I know that. Let's not get into that. It's not his birthday, but still, it is the day that the world has decided to celebrate his birth, and that's important. That's the important thing. And not knowing when to celebrate his birthday. When shall we celebrate it? I don't know. Well, what about the day that the Romans are using to celebrate the resurrection of the Son? Okay, well that's as good as any other day. If we don't know the exact day, it could be any day. But anyway, the important thing is that there is one day that the world has decided, except for the Eastern Orthodox churches, but that's okay. They can do their own thing. Most of the world has decided to celebrate Jesus' birth. And even in communist countries, even in China, they have Christmas. They may not have Jesus, but they have Christmas, which is all right. That's almost there, almost there. North Korea, probably not North Korea. I'll bet they don't have Christmas in North Korea. Um, Cuba, I bet they have Christmas in Cuba. Yeah. North Korea may be the only country where they don't have Christmas, or maybe. Yeah, President Trump, uh, don't allow anyone in from any country that does not have Christmas. I could go with that. All right. Anyway, so let's see here. Okay, we got just a minute here left. Okay, and yes. United Nations says seeking asylum a human right, ignores DC guardsman allegedly shot by Afghan refugee. Okay. All right. Well, and there may be a point to that. I think Father, I think might support that statement that seeking asylum, if someone is really having if their life is in danger, if their human rights are being violated, then seeking asylum may in fact be a human right in Father's point of view. Okay. All right. So, but also let's work out ways to defend ourselves against people who come here and then try to uh, do all sorts of terrible things. Like, for example, Second Amendment. All right, got to go. Let's see. Tomorrow, I've recorded a thing for tomorrow, an OSTP lecture for tomorrow. So that's what you'll be receiving tomorrow from 7 to 8. Then I've also programmed it to be uploaded to YouTube at 8. So you can watch it there if you like. And then I'll be with you on Monday with my usual backdrop. Or actually, my wife has prepared a new one. So a new backdrop, perhaps. No. That's not for King's Report. That's for the okay. Anyway, with my usual backdrop, perhaps on Monday. Let's hope. Let's hope. God bless Godspeed. May His kingdom come quickly.